Hey, what's up, everybody? This is the G-Man in the studio again with Kel, back for another episode of What's the Matter podcast, episode 6. And let's see, let's always start out, Kel. What have you been doing? What's going on today?
Oh God, I have been in tech hell. The last couple weeks have just been insane. I broke my phone, then my laptop died, then my router died.
What?
All within 3 days.
What did you do?
I have no idea. And Mercury's not even in retrograde. So it was rough. It was rough. And so the worst part about it, and we talked about this last week, was how trapped in loops I got where I couldn't log into websites because they kept wanting to send me texts for dual factor authentication.
Yeah.
So it was really frustrating for a minute.
Right. Yeah. Because you use your phone for all that authentication. You know, that's their fail safe.
Right. Which I don't care for. As an ex-IT consultant, I don't like it. But I mean, at least give me the option to send me an email because I could get email. So it was weird. So I got that stuff worked out and I ordered a phone, got the phone in. Dumb me. It was the wrong model. So, but it's functional. So I'm using it in the meantime. I ordered the right model yesterday. And then it started freaking out again yesterday. My connectivity.
That's
I
not
couldn't
fair.
connect. And my laptop was okay. My one phone was okay. And my tablet was okay. Then the tablet went and then the other phone went, but the laptop was still okay. It was so bizarre. And then the laptop, they cycled it. I called Spectrum. They cycled it for me a couple times, sent signal, and whatever it did, it blew it up. So I had to go to the store last night, the Spectrum store, and get a new router again.
Man.
So I'm changing passwords and it's such a hassle. And people wonder why I'm not an IT consultant anymore.
So this was our follow-up to Digital Trust last week.
Exactly.
With Miss Adrienne Ashley. She was, Darcy was listening to the show and she was just like, gosh, she is just so full of like technology, IT stuff. She's like, whoo, a lot of it went over your head.
I'm competent.
Yeah.
She's good.
Yeah.
I mean,
so that was really good. So, hey, but so that was a fun time. So let's see, today we're going to talk about what's the matter with comedy. And, there's a little bit of conversation out there about it being in crisis and, in essence, what happened to our collective sense of humor. Boy, I grew up in the Central Valley and we had a mix of all types of backgrounds of people, ethnicities and things like that. And boy, that was the whole fun of everything, is coming up with a joke to rip one of your friends on. And it was never anything personal that you at least thought it was. But the point is, from a life coach standpoint, you never know how somebody's internalizing that stuff, especially when you're ignorant as a kid, right? Because you're just kind of like mirroring everything. So we're going to be talking about all kinds of different things about comedy. And we're also happy to have our second now in studio guest. I got to wet my whistle for this. We have Mark Villareal. But yeah, it's just, Mark, we're going to be calling on you, but we're definitely going to get about half an hour into this and we'll kind of get into everything with you. But why don't you real quick mention to everybody, of course, got your name. And so what are you doing here today?
I am here on behalf of the show that I put on. So I'm a stand-up comic myself, but I also put together shows, weekly open mics. But my big thing right now is putting on these showcases. I want to put on the best show possible, not just comedians putting on material. And so I handpick all the comics that go on these shows. On June 28th, I have this amazing show coming up right there in the heart of Sparks, right on Victorian Avenue at the Blind Onion. You can buy tickets on Eventbrite, but it's going to be awesome. I mean, I have a really good guy hosting, Blake Hoffman. He lives in Tahoe now, but he's originally from Colfax. Very funny guy. He does shows with Don't Tell, Reno, and Tahoe. He's done shows all the way in Sacramento. I've done shows with him there. He's done Reno, Tahoe comedy shows. He's a very funny guy. And then I have a very funny Reno local as well for my feature, because I love giving that like local love back. He's featuring. He's super funny. He's way better than me by a long shot. And he does shows with Don't Tell as well. But I'm really excited about my headliner that I have, which, save the best for last. Callan Ginobaga. He is so funny. He's one of my favorite comedians. Everyone asks you, like, who's your favorite comedian? And, off the top, I have to go with people that people will know. But if we're talking about of all time, he's definitely right there. I mean, this guy is so funny. He opens up regularly for Carlos Mencia, and he's even done guest opening spots for Russell Peters, which is very impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, he is just the funniest guy I've ever met.
I love it. And we're going to be talking more about that. We'll get to know you a little bit more later. But in the meantime, let's kind of open up the conversation. And we got, again, we before we got into the show, we were talking about Carlin a little bit. So I said, admire the man. I know that he had his issues, but at the end of the day, definitely Hall of Famer.
Oh, no question.
As far as
He
that
was
goes, kind of
seminal
like,
as far as spurring a whole generation of comedians.
right. And you look back at his early days, and so that's some of the things that we're going to be talking about. So span between, say, Carlin and Dave Chappelle. Another great example of somebody who's controversial, but I love that guy. He's so entertaining. And so there's been a line that's been drawn, though, in these last few years. Let's say, the last 5 years, certainly, maybe the last 10 years or so. But just the tension, just a general tension between what's called, of course, the cancel culture, providing somebody their safe spaces, and then stand-up comedy. And it's an interesting paradigm as I've watched it unfold, in that comedians are like everybody else, where they're trying to make it in this world. They're trying to make a living, and everybody has their beginning. Everybody dreams of making it big because that equates to more money. And the how to get there is not an exact science, and people get there all kinds of different ways. But once they do get there, and they're theoretically just up there doing their job, which is to make fun of us and society and life. Yeah. And those are some of the things that, again, propel people. And what makes comedians, professional comedians, so funny is they tap into something that we can all relate to, or something that we all observe, even though we may not participate in one way or the other, and put this little funny spin on it. So here's the question. Let me throw this out there. Have we become too sensitive, or has comedy just failed to evolve?
Oh, I think it's definitely a matter of too sensitive. Comedy's comedy. I mean, we get the oh, too soon and that kind of stuff when people go hard at things that society has decided are taboo or are too sensitive or whatever. But I think for the most part, it's people just wanting to have a reason to,
who just came to mind? Andrew Dice Clay.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because again, that was kind of part of his shtick. He was so crass. It was funny. He would say things that you could literally only dream of saying, but he just
or that most of us would never even think, but then it pops out of his mouth and you're just like, whoa.
Yeah. Or something, that's just like, you would only hear that in a movie. You wouldn't hear it live publicly, things like that. But Mark, you referenced Jerry Seinfeld, as we were talking before we got started here. And he was in these, again, last couple of years with all the, we try to stay away from political, religious type of thing, and everything else is pretty much fair game. But some of the strife that, of course, seems to happen all over the world all the time is traced back to some sort of religious connotation or battle cry. If, God's on our side, everybody thinks God's on their side. Yeah.
That's the programming.
And so, but at the end of the day, you're supposed to, all of our religious leaders have taught that, you're supposed to treat people in the essence the way that you want to be treated.
Which technically has nothing to do with religion.
No, it's a general thing, right?
How Christianity decided to co-opt that, I'll never understand.
Yeah. I was in the grocery store earlier. There was an older lady kind of struggling to get her stuff out of the cart. And I said, "Ma'am, could I help you?" And she's like, "That'd be great." And I was just standing there thinking, just like, again, my mom was just like, same type of thing, like, what I taught you. So just, go into action. But on these college campuses, back to Seinfeld, he got criticized as a comedian because he was kind of, in essence, stepping up for his people, getting hecklers and stuff like that, which is part of the job, but I guess the question is knowing that background, Mark, why don't you comment on this? And what's your take on, say, dealing with a heckler, and then that situation, say there are lines that we're talking about that comedians have been crossing. So where's that line with the audience?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, I
the
completely
audience.
understand. I have a pretty controversial opinion on a lot of things. And I think it's just the way my brain works. I think with like hecklers and stuff, sometimes it's just because you're so good that they just want to get involved with your joke. And so they're excited. And you have to warrant them that opportunity to say, hey, thank you so much for wanting to be a part of this show. But your portion of it is sitting in that chair and listening and laughing and nothing else. So if you could please do that for me. And that's how I like to approach it at first. Now, if it continues to be an issue and it's an irritant for everyone else in the crowd, that's when all lights turn green and you light them up. That's how it works.
Yeah, so you give them a chance.
Yes, absolutely.
Kind of
100%.
get their shit together.
Plus, you want the audience to know like it's at least distracting you and see if it is also with them too.
Yeah.
Because sometimes even if it is a noticeable noise, they're not hearing it because they're so focused on you. So this at least allows you, hey, if this is going to keep bothering me, they know why I'm getting irritated by it, and it gives you that leeway.
What's the percentage of people that are hecklers that are intoxicated?
100%.
100%.
I wouldn't say that because I used to heckle, not in a, like, it wasn't technically heckling. Like I wasn't trying to mess them up. I was like playing along, and
Yeah.
I learned to stop it because, like you said, I would get excited and could relate to what they were saying, and stuff would pop out of my mouth. And so, I wasn't drunk. I don't drink much, so it's not always 100%.
Do you think though, after you've been told, hey, like, this is my time, even when you were sober, after you might have done a heckle, do you think if they said, hey, like, no more, then you actually...
I would shut the hell up. Absolutely.
So you weren't a heckler. You just heckled once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You put your toes in the water.
Yeah. And it wasn't intentional.
You know?
It's the ADHD thing. I
Yeah.
recognize now what it is, but it wasn't an alcohol thing, or it wasn't I certainly wasn't trying to be negative. It was like
Right.
positive heckling.
Right. I mean, you nail one nail doesn't make you a carpenter.
Right.
So.
Right. And that was it. Like I wouldn't keep going unless they interacted back. Every once in a while they'd play back.
Yeah.
Because it was, it was within the spirit of the joke. But yeah, that's the thing.
You know what
Yeah.
my strategy is when I go to comedy clubs? First of all, like as far as heckling goes, like if you don't want to be part of the show, don't sit in the front row. That's like rule number one.
Right.
Because then even the
you're
comedian
fair game for the
could
comedian.
see something about you that you look like Anthony Kiedis from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, bro. I don't know. You know what I mean? Something like that.
Yeah, and
But
if you can riff on it, even better.
Then if you're in the front row and then you actually are the person that says something to the comedian, you're asking for trouble.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You've got a bullseye on you if given the opportunity, correct?
Yeah, I mean, stay behind the first two rows if you do not want to get messed with, because after the first two rows, you can't see anything on those stage lights. So if there's anything more, like if you want to interact and you want to possibly be called on, sit closer up to the front. If you don't want that, sit farther away. Well, that's also, you were talking about the sensitivity thing, because people do get upset when you call out a heckler. Sometimes they say, oh, you went too hard, even though they were annoying, whatever. And I think it's kind of both sides on whether people are too sensitive now.
Sure.
Or if it's something that the comics are doing. I'm kind of both sides. Like sometimes people definitely go too far. Sometimes people are too sensitive. But I think realistically, the problem with all the cancellation is the overexposure. Everything's social media and so easy to get now that you don't have a finite group of a fan base. It's so massive because it's so easy to share that everyone can see it. And if you're not a fan of comedy, you're not going to understand that these are jokes. Not a knock-knock joke, not a dad joke, something that you can say at church, at work, whatever.
No,
These
stories.
are jokes about like this group of people or me beating my wife, even though it's a joke and you should know that's never true. But people just take it as a literal statement. So, yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So I have a couple of clips that I think are great examples of professional comedians that take real life and they experienced and they make it funny. So Ali Wong.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's see if this is working well. All right. So of course she's talking about motherhood, right? And I have never been pregnant. But as far as somebody sucking on my nipples, I'm going to plead the fifth. And but
it's a much more erogenous zone for men than anybody realizes.
But you know, of course, I've never seen. She hasn't been through Reno, I don't think. I've heard of her, but you know, what do you know about her, Mark?
Oh, she's hilarious. I mean, I've watched all of her specials that come out. This is a little weird, but I find a lot of female comics aren't funny, not because females can't be funny, but a lot of them after they start getting that success, they're kind of told, "Hey, play to your female audience instead of just, hey, be a funny comic."
Right.
Is what it at least seems like. And like she's just stayed true to herself. I mean, every part of that joke, I could picture exactly what her face was doing.
Yeah.
I see how her body was moving.
Well, she was pregnant.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
No,
during this performance, which makes it even more hilarious because she's
it's just so funny. And I mean, like, she's just talking about something that's relatable for everyone. Even if you're not a woman, you can still laugh at the jokes because you've either seen the movie or you've seen someone breastfeed or you have kids or, maybe
Right.
just because you were a kid who breastfed for too long and you can remember that as well. Who knows? But that joke is relatable to everyone. It's hilarious. And
yeah. So now speaking on that, like when you are when you're writing and knowing what we're talking about, you have to find some relatable story or something that you went through and make it funny. What's your process? What kind of hits you? Is it something clairvoyant or is it something that's mechanical?
I kind of just write about things either that are like, I try to find the drama, the tragedy. I mean, when I first started, I was just writing what I found funny, which is a good way to start. But now I just write about what upsets me or what should upset me. And I write about that and I write the story out. And then I find the punchlines and the tags on what could be relatable to people. How do I alliterate or how do I exaggerate this story to something that's relatable to other people? Right? She could just say that the baby was trying to rip her nipple off, but instead she used a well-known movie for people to have that picture painted for them.
Yeah. And I was just thinking that when you said that you write at first when you think things are funny, and that's how I was getting in trouble with my wife, Kel. How like I think something's hilarious. She's like, honey, that's not
Yeah, no.
funny. Like, how can we break that?
That's a men are from Mars, women are from Venus thing.
A good point.
That's just a different wiring. What men find funny and what women find funny are just often different.
I wonder if she's listening right now. But another thing I wanted to talk, or not a thing, but a person. So Shane Gillis,
Woo!
right? So what do you what's your take on Shane?
Number one is he is the best guy in stand up right now. He is so funny. He's just
I'm not familiar with him. I don't have a TV.
Yeah.
So I haven't watched SNL in forever.
So
and I don't watch the news. So I have no idea what's going on.
So
I don't know who
that's
the
the
latest
note
cast
that
is.
I have is that I did not know that he started on SNL
well, kind of
and then he got fired.
before he ever did anything on SNL.
Oh, so tell us the story on that.
So he got hired on SNL, and then before he even filmed his first skit, because usually you get hired on SNL as a writer, but they liked him enough that they're like, yeah, we'll play ball. We'll put you in skits right away instead of just being a writer. So he got that. And then before he even filmed his first one, they're like, oh, we seen your podcast. I mean, he has over 1,000 episodes of his podcast with his buddy. I can't remember his name right now. Very funny comic as well.
Well, he's one of the guys that like does the great impression of President Trump.
Well, he did a great impression of an Asian person, and that's what SNL saw and fired him for it before he could even really start.
Wow. They have sure deteriorated.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine from what they started as?
Yeah.
I always hearken back to the Richard Pryor Chevy Chase routine, N-word honky. Have you seen that one?
No, I don't think so.
Deep 70s.
Yeah.
And they go back and forth racially insulting each other until they get to the actual N-word and straight up say it.
Wow.
Chevy Chase calls Richard Pryor the N-word.
Yeah, you can't do that
and Richard Pryor calls him cracker back.
Wow.
Can you imagine? I mean, prime time TV.
Yeah, it's just a different world for those.
Totally.
I love it. So yeah, so that's Shane Gillis. So yeah, I guess the point is we're talking about somebody that makes it. Like if you're a writer on Saturday Night Live, then making it. I mean, you're at least there on a springboard
Yeah.
that can get you into bigger things because you're going to be introduced with people and work hard, show that you can
Be
be
funny.
funny. And so he was being funny and got canceled. And so now, of course, it's kind of like, again, semi-Phoenix rising from the ashes, and things are all good now, I guess. But it just, again, goes to show you that when you stick your neck out there, even when you stick your neck out there and things work, one wrong move in today's world, look at Russell Brand, right? Somebody, people, he's got some pretty crazy stuff, I guess, that he's been.
Well, he went in a completely different direction into spirituality.
Right.
And that freaked a lot of his, original fan base out.
Right.
And then he found a whole new community.
Yeah, he's been all over the
Oh, yeah.
place. He's got some pretty funny things though. So let's see. So right about now, let's go ahead and jump over to Mark, and let's people get to know you a little bit. Now, as we say, we are broadcasting from the Matterhorn right here in the Reno Town Mall in beautiful Reno, Nevada, the biggest little city. And actually, this is a good, I guess, chance to shout out the sponsors. This is produced by Big Bongo Productions, sponsored by World Matters Incorporated. And we have some other sponsors that are coming online. We just got some things to work out with them. But if you are a business and you're interested in advertising on the show, just get in touch with me or Kel. We'll help you out from there. But Mark, where were you originally born?
Ooh, so it's about like everywhere in Reno.
You were born everywhere in Reno?
I was born at renowned what was Washoe Med.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But I've lived everywhere all around northern Nevada. I mean, from Reno, Lemon Valley, Stead, Silver Springs. I mean, everywhere around Reno is where I've lived.
You've had a taste of everything.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah. Now, where'd you go to high school?
I went to a charter school. I was a bad kid.
Yeah.
I was a trouble. Yeah, we'll say that.
Rambunctious.
A little more than rambunctious.
Ornery.
Yeah.
Were you?
No, I should have been.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm kind of like the same way. I was arrested. How many times have I been arrested? I've had handcuffs on 2 times, arrested once. Yeah. Yeah.
I've had my share.
2 times. Yeah. Yeah. So I know it feels like to have a knee in your back and your face in the ground, put it that way.
Yeah.
Did you ever end up in the clink?
I was in a holding cell.
Me too.
They never, pressed charges.
I was just too fast.
Because they had
good for you.
Yeah.
No, I was a very bad kid. I mean, I grew up in a toxic household too, so it wasn't very helpful, and I just wanted to fit in. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to start drinking Miller High Lifes in middle school.
Middle school, you beat me. I think I was 15 when I had my first beer. 3.
My parents. What? My parents had friends over one night, the Shedlocks, and they were drinking wine, and they didn't finish the bottle, and my mother put the rest of it back in the fridge. The next day, she was doing laundry, and the washer went off balance. So she poured the last of the wine in a glass. The washer went off balance. She goes downstairs to fix it. I grabbed the wine. Back up.
That's by accident.
No. When I was downstairs when the Shedlocks were there, and she pours the wine, and I pointed at it and said, "Me some, me some." And Lois Shedlock said, "No, that's okay. That's for grown-ups. Mommy will get you some juice. That's nasty. Mommy will get you some juice." Yeah. And so she goes downstairs the next day.
That's amazing. You can remember this when you're 3.
I took the glass and we've retold the story a million times.
Oh, I got you.
And I took the glass, finished the wine, and she came back upstairs and said, "Where's my wine?" And I said, "Nasty, all gone, Mommy." And then slept till the next day. So yeah, at my dad's beer.
Now, when I'm waiting for my paycheck to come in, I do the same thing at a bar. No, but no, I mean, I was playing Edward 40 Hands in 7th grade, and I mean, I smoked weed. I don't really anymore, even though it's legal now. But I started smoking weed when I was in 5th grade.
Dude, that's not good.
Oh, I mean, it really messed up my puberty. I have tits, but I mean, yeah, I was really a bad kid. So I went to this charter school that turned into a college prep school. So it seemed really cool. And I was always great in school.
What's the name of it? Give them a shout out.
Oh, God. Alpine Academy College Prep Charter High.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a lot of syllables.
Yeah,
Yeah, it sounds fancy, right? It doesn't need that many syllables. I mean, listen, Harvard, okay? And we have 86. I mean, it's It was cool. It was a great education there too, which was nice. And I actually finished school early, just so I could start working. I
Okay.
mean, like I said, toxic household. So I had my own apartment right before I turned 16 years old. So I was 15 years old.
You emancipate?
No, I just left
Just left.
and just know people. So that's kind of the trick is just
Wow.
network enough and
Uh-huh.
you'll get by.
And then but what one day when you didn't come home, what did your parents do?
So at that point, I was already most of the way estranged from my parents. I kind of off and on talked to my father, but I was living with my aunt and uncle at that time.
Okay.
Just because I was couch hopping and
Mhm.
sleeping just random places downtown for a
Three
while.
3,000 youth in Washoe County are either couch surfing or they're homeless.
Yeah, so I was homeless at that point, and then I stayed with my aunt and uncle for a little bit, and then I ended up getting that place, which was nice, but then I was working, like, almost 70 hours a week to be able to pay the bills and stuff
Mhm.
because I was just a tire tech at the time trying to make ends meet and pay
Right.
for, my car insurance, my phone bill, all the bills.
Life ain't no joke.
Isn't.
Yeah, and, actually shortly after that, I tried to get my mom back in my life, and that didn't go well, and then I was just spiraling. I was having a midlife crisis at 17, and I was like, "What am I gonna do? I don't wanna work for the rest of my life," and that lasted for about a year and a half, so after turning 18 and some months, I was like, "Alright, well, I'm gonna pull the trigger, I'm gonna do it," and then I joined the military.
Now you said Army, right?
Army, yeah.
Okay, so take us to that space because here's one of my points that I'm going to make because this is the time to make it with we're in arts and culture, and so my observation at almost 62 is that there are just incredible artists in this world and that have just a super big heart, and however talented they may or may not be, it seems like most artists, or Kelly, tell me if you agree with this, are broken in some way, or they've been broken.
Oh, no.
There's heartbreaking story
Oh, yeah.
that they have, and
Yeah.
so you're sharing a little bit of that with us. And so, where was that?
Tragedy creates
Where's that moment, right, where if you've realized that, hey, and maybe it was what led to you joining the Army, is that I had no control over this shit that happened to me before.
Yeah.
Right. But here I am, and I am in charge of the rest of my life. So I'm drawing a line. I'm taking control. I'm taking power. Was that the kind of self meeting that you had with yourself before you decided to join the Army, or was it more of a matter of desperation?
So we kind of actually hit on kind of what all was happening with it prior to the actually starting. Like a lot of people think I'm a lot older. Around 16, I just decided, hey, I am done smoking weed, like done drinking. So maybe once a year I would
Mhm.
at that point, which is pretty
Good.
infrequent for someone that young. I
Yeah.
mean, now I drink about like 6 or 7 times a day. No, but I mean, like now I drink, but everything's in control. I've had to battle with it a few times, but I've always been able to pull myself back in. But it was out of that like I need I need to do something because I was looking and thinking back to my family and being like, they can't even afford to keep a Crown Vic car. They end up selling it for drugs. And I was like, I need to do better. So I was working my butt off, getting all these jobs and everything. And then just after a while being like, I want to experience life. I never had any experiences. I've never went on family vacations, explored anywhere, been out of the country, barely been out of the state, out of the city even. So I was like, I need to do something. So I wanted to take a drastic swing. I joined the army. I went to Iraq, had all that fun experience, and that's actually led me to some of the best experiences of my life. Not necessarily in the army. Don't recommend it to anyone at all. No,
But thank you for your service.
Yes. Thank you.
no, thank you. I appreciate the support. The army is great. It's just it's hard transitioning back out of it, even
Right.
if you're going the guard route like I did. I spent my first 6 months in training and then right after that, another year in deployment and then kept moving up the ranks. And I got out as a sergeant and then losing that responsibility seems like it should be a pleasure. But honestly, you're just like, now I need to fill this void.
Right.
And it just changes who you are as a person a little bit. But it did also be the like number one thing in my resume that got me the job that I have now as my day job, which is amazing.
What are you doing?
I work for what's called like MPI, essentially.
Mhm.
It's just new product introduction. You introduce new parts and stuff and you do trials on a line.
Okay.
Cool.
Don't want to say too much because if I say something else and I get fired, then I would
Yeah.
be very
Yeah.
upset. But no, I mean it's no, it's a great opportunity for me and everything like that. And I'm 25, so I'm just still I'm about to be 25. So I'm just trying to figure out what I'm doing in this life. So, I mean, the only thing I know is that I want to be in entertainment. I want to be in comedy. I want to do more films. I've only done really one short film so far, but that's just the only thing I got. And then I'm just full head, like full
So
storm ahead.
So take us through that process. What led to you saying? Because I remember hearing, of course, the story about Eddie Murphy when he's grown up. He was doing comedy skits in front of all of his family and stuff like that from the time he was like 4 or 5 years old.
Right.
Michael Jackson, type of thing. And so, but where were you? What was your thought process when you said, "I'm going to get into again the type of thing where 1% of the people make it"?
Yeah.
Right.
The army or the no, I'm just so like with comedy, I've always been, the class clown. I've been funny in conversations. I'm not necessarily the best at stand up, but I've kind of realized like I want to make people laugh. Laughter is great. And it's one of the key ways that I use now when I'm upset, when I'm angry, or even road rage. I say a joke or I find a way to make a joke so I'm no longer upset. And that's helped me so much that I'm like, I realize this helps everyone. This helps everyone. You can have a really bad day. You could have just lost someone, could have just been diagnosed with cancer. You could have just, went financially bankrupt, but you go to a comedy open mic for free. You pay a little bit of money to go see a good show, or even if you're having a good day, it's your anniversary, it's your birthday, you go to comedy and it just makes everything just a little bit better.
It really
Being able
does.
to laugh
Oh
release
yeah.
those endorphins. And I think if I'm going to do anything in this life, let me impact as many people as I can and make as many people as I can smile and laugh.
Yeah, I love that. So now let's talk about, so you've been, let's say you jumped off the ledge and saying you're wanting to be an entertainer for how long? How long's it been since you've been on your journey?
Hmm. I think the true start of wanting to do it was when I was 22,
Hmm.
but the initial want and the desire for it originated when I was in kindergarten.
Really?
I watched
You like people, it's kind of like, I think what you're saying is that as a kid, like when if you make somebody smile, you make them laugh, that feels good.
Sure.
It does, because you're passing along joy, whether you're being a goofball or whatever. So where's that endorphin come from?
Especially if you're having to use that as a protection mechanism, which
We're going to talk about that in a little
yeah,
bit too.
yeah. Folks that have been through the kind of stuff that Mark and I have that create the neurodivergence we have, you basically dissociate and become different people with different people because you learn
Yeah,
how your behavior impacts their mood. So
right.
you're like, if I'm like this with this one, they'll laugh. If I'm like this one, they'll be nice to me. If I'm like this with this one, and you become this multi-character
Gotcha.
player.
Yeah, so you're kind of acting, you're wearing these different masks, which actually plays into when you're on stage, whether you're auditioning for a film part or whether you're on stage as a comedian. They're not getting, they may get most of you, but they're not still getting all of you because everybody has their deep, dark secrets and stuff. So, but let's talk about the grind as opposed to the old days. So, the old days, let's talk about them. Let's say you're in Illinois or somewhere that's not New York City or Los Angeles. So, the old school, just like I got to go where the shows are, I got to go where the talent agents are. And so, you would have to pick up and move the truck to Beverly, so to speak, right? And so nowadays, with of course technology and everything, it's easier to get out there to where people can see you. But the grind of having open mics, hustling on social media, building a following and stuff like that. Talk about that real quick.
Yeah, I think with all the social media and stuff, what it really has empowered is the ability to create a group to say, hey, let's start doing an open mic here and finding those like-minded people. Because before it was just open mics only in California or New York, and that's the only places you could do it. And so now with these smaller cities, almost every single city you go to will have some kind of comedy scene. It might not be big, but it'll have something. And so that's really huge. And I think one of the things I get lost now is when you're new in your first maybe 5 years of comedy, just grind on making the best material and don't worry so much about posting your own material because it's kind of cringe. I fell into that trap for my first 6 months.
Yeah, because you just want to get content out there,
yes,
whether it's good or not, right?
and then you don't realize, you're like, this is the best I could do, but it's like your best you can do right now. So your content ends up being really bad, and you're like, that just makes me look worse. So I stopped posting all of my own videos and stuff like that. I still record a lot of my sets and listen to them back over, but I don't post anything. And I'm just working on building the best amount of time that I have and really working out how to write jokes, how to perform them, and learning my lessons from that. And then I like to go to like Sacramento, San Francisco Bay Area. We'll be going to Vegas here in a couple of weeks and just doing material again there. Some of my old stuff, some of the tried and true, and trying it in a new city. It brings a new light to it. And that's also when you go to these bigger cities, is where you get that exposure and that light, and you can just really really light up a stage in a room because you just worked it out so hard, and you actually put in, 3-5 days a week, every single week, and you perfected this material. You go to these big cities, you get a single shot. Now people know you there. And that's how you actually continue to grow.
Yeah, because it's the worst worst nightmare for a comedian to saying this joke's going to hit, and then you hear
Right.
right afterwards, right?
Yeah.
It's
I
just like,
can't
okay, that
imagine.
one didn't work, folks. But you got to keep swinging.
And here, I have an interesting question for you. What do you do about, do you have RSD, rejection sensitive dysphoria, with your ADHD?
I would say 100% in person to person relation, but I no longer do on stage.
Interesting. How did you overcome that?
I overcame that because I conceptualized the room as, this is like a lab. This is a testing area. And this is where I try things. And you guys are here to support me trying new things and giving me that answer. But when
Right.
it's an actual stage presence though, and if I bomb on there, that's when it does hurt a lot
Mhm.
more. But when you just treat the open mics and these small shows, it's just a
Kind of
testing
your litmus
facility.
test.
Yeah.
Love it.
Mhm.
It's so helpful, because then you can leave and you go, none of that worked. That's great information.
Yeah, exactly. What a great reframe. And if you can like put it in your head that you don't tell them this, but the audience is there to support you in your experiment. They're part of the interaction. They just don't know it.
Yeah, they don't know that they're the testing dummies.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
And also with the exposure that you get nowadays, the best or one of the most effective ways of doing that is now everybody's using reels and shorts. And so to think that somebody's going to say, listen to a 20-minute set, it's
Right.
much harder to ask people to do
that's
that,
another
right?
great point. The dopamine, the instant dopamine hits have really changed the way we perceive things and consume information. And that's an interesting point. I've been away from the comedy scene since COVID. That kind of shut everything down for a while. And I stopped going, and then I got really sick, and then fell into a whole bunch of other crap that was going on. Well, I haven't ventured back. And then Dave Mancarelli stopped working at Catch, where I could get in for free. So I haven't ventured back out there, but I want to, especially now that we're doing this again. And then I stopped the radio show. So it was just so many things happened that pulled me out of it. And I was never a performer. I worked with them through my other shows and was just a big fan. I loved it. And
But reels are
I
where it's
miss
at
it.
nowadays.
Yeah.
That it seems like, of course.
And
Yes,
then you get the oversaturation thing too. The point you were talking about earlier with not posting and things like that, because now when you said it, now that it's so much easier, now that every area has its own kind of scene and this and that, but then you have the opposite effect of, is it oversaturation? Is there
Exactly.
so much out there that people can't find you because they're having to weed through so much crap that they give up?
Or they say, take the time and spend the money to go see them live when I can just turn it on YouTube or whatever and enjoy them whenever I want.
Just wait for it to come out on whatever platform I already have. And I mean, yeah, I've done the same thing.
It's so different live though.
Yeah.
And people who've never been to a live comedy show might go, yeah, I can just watch it here or do whatever.
Yeah,
people who've been to live comedy don't do, they'll default to that, but they'll still have that desire to go in person, because that
because when everybody's laughing, it is infectious.
Oh,
it's hard not to be having fun when everybody's
co-relate
laughing,
with the audience and relate
yourself.
with the comedian. It becomes a thing.
What's really fun though is actually going to them, especially if it's like a special taping or something, and then seeing the special after you actually went to that show that they recorded for that, because then you get to experience it from both sides and really see that comparison. I did that actually with the Reno local, one of the greatest comics out here in the Reno area, Steven Dente. He has a special up on YouTube, not as good, as bad as I used to be. Very funny guy. I went to his special taping, watched it. They did it in a local coffee shop here. It's one of the places that they taped it. And I mean, he murdered the whole entire time at the first show, but the second show got a little rocky because there was a lady who was heckling him, funny enough. But they managed to still pull parts of that taping and parts of the earlier taping and put it together. And it's so amazing. And it was such a fun time watching him do this, because he's been working on this material for, 5 years, if not more. And then he finally got to put it together and put it out there for people. And it had a pretty good response for a Reno comedian. And I mean, I love it. You guys should really check it out if you Steven Dente, like the pasta. Yeah. And then it's not as bad as I used to be, right there on YouTube. It's very funny. Great comic, hilarious material. I mean, just a really killer guy. On my first showcase show that I did, he was actually my feature there, and it was wonderful.
So
Awesome.
who was your favorite
of Reno?
No, favorite all-time comedian.
I want to know Reno too.
It's really tough to say. I would say I have to categorize them in two sections. First section being well-known stand-up comedians, and then second section being favorite comedian of all time who's not necessarily well known. First is going to be Shane Gillis, and then that's just current, modern, well-known comedian. Other than that, probably Richard Pryor, and then George Carlin. And then aside from that,
that's a pretty good trifecta right there.
They're just, I mean, Richard Pryor is just so funny. Yeah. I mean, half my family is actually Black. So growing up with them and then having that around me and then listening to his material, and I'm like, dude, sometimes I text my cousin, I'm like, do you think this way about me? And he's like, no, dude, like, we gave you the N-word pass. No.
Oh, that's funny.
I grew up saying it. I don't anymore unless the windows are rolled up. No. But, and so it's a funny way to watch it, is from the other lens. But as far as not well-known comedians, like I said earlier, my favorite comic who's not necessarily a big comic yet is Callan Ginobaga. There was a show that I was working. I wasn't even on the show, but I was working to kind of grind and be able to get the opportunity to work with this.
And where does he hail from?
Sacramento.
Sacramento, okay.
I mean, he was so funny. I was serving drinks at this show, and as I'm working it and everything, I'm pretty good at just being able to just sit there and not pay attention to what's going on there, because I don't want to laugh. I don't want to get disrupted. But what he was saying was just so sharp, so good, and his delivery was just so impeccable that it penetrated my mind with me trying to ignore it. And I just started laughing, trying to take people's drink orders. It made my job really hard, but it made me laugh so hard.
That is awesome. And it's interesting to me. I was an entertainment journalist in the hard rock and heavy metal industry for 20 years. I have a hard time going to shows and enjoying them as just a fan now. I can't do it. I'm curious as to your perspective as a comedian watching other comedy. Can you just be a fan, or do you analyze the whole thing? Are you breaking it down? Are you, kind of critiquing in your mind, or stealing or borrowing, or, oh, I like that, no, I wouldn't do that kind of thing?
I think it's kind of a mix. I think you do end up most people, you listen to it and you understand it and you're like, I'm dissecting that joke. This is how I would have made it better. Or or you even think of maybe I can offer them this tag. This is a joke I can hear you saying that would make this joke funnier, in my opinion. And it depends on your relationship with all of them. But when someone's funny enough, that all goes out the window. When I'm listening to Callan or some of the other Reno guys, Steven Dente, I can't even try. Their complexity for how they made that joke, where the idea originated from, how it came together, cannot make sense fast enough that I can't get distracted from that. I just laugh and laugh so hard because of them.
That's awesome. That's I'm always curious about that with other, professionals in the industry consuming whatever from that industry.
Yeah, it's hard sometimes though.
Yeah, I get that.
So let's the brand that you have, Mark, is it more? It's an interesting question to me. So is it more important for comedians these days to get followers, or is it more important for comedians these days to be funny?
I think it's always going to be more important to be funny. At the end of the day, I mean, you can get as many followers as you want,
They come and go.
but they're not gonna stay with you if you're not funny, or if you're not their kind of funny either. If you're posting up because you're an attractive person, and then you try to do a comedy show, but you're not funny, then you're gonna lose your fan base. And if you're funny but not attractive, not a huge following, they will find you. They will find you. And if you're being true to yourself, it might take longer. It might be a little bit more difficult to get that initial kickoff, but it will be more sustainable that way.
Now, do you think it's more kind of dovetailing off that last question? Do you think it's more important to actually get exposure as you're able to work things out, or getting experience?
I don't think there's anything wrong with the exposure, but I think you should focus on exposure to the right people. Expose yourself to other comedians in other cities and network like that. Because whether you want to or not, as a comic, you're going to end up getting a small fan base, which it's even weird for me to say, but I've been recognized for doing shows and hosting shows and putting them together and telling my own jokes. And it's weird. I went into Zoomies to buy a pair of shoes and the guy's like, "I know you." And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "I know you." And then he's one of the few times I posted a clip. He's like, "I seen something on TikTok from you," and then he like told me my own bit, which was very funny to like have that experience happen. And it's so weird.
It's like when you have an audience sing a song that you wrote.
Right.
I've had that blessing one time, and it's mind blowing in
I
that
can't
moment because
imagine.
you're performing and you still have to be performing, but inside you're like jumping up and just like, oh my God.
You feel like your stomach is lifting up into
Yeah.
your chest and your
Mhm.
throat. Yeah, it's awesome. But if you're genuinely exposing yourself to those people, they're gonna have a small group of fan base, and then you're gonna collect them too on your way. And then you're gonna collect some more here. And that's why people become openers. You open for other people, and then you start collecting your own fan base, and then you can start doing your own shows. And then people talk, their fan base talks, and then you get more and more and more, and that's how it grows.
Yeah, it was the same way with bands back in the day.
Let's see. How long is it going to take for?
Have you ever heard of Sarah Millican? Do you know who she is? She's a
Do not.
British, a middle-aged British lady. Oh my God, she is so funny.
I will definitely check her out.
She did this routine about men versus women and just kind of the weird habits that we do that the other sex doesn't know about. Oh my God, it's so funny. The very last bit of this routine is just hilarious.
So next, let's check out this TikTok star who is now. All right, so that's Mr. Matt Rife, and I found him probably 3 years ago, 4 years ago, or something like that. And talk about being able to work a crowd.
Yeah.
And he's not necessarily, sometimes he deals with hecklers, but not very often. I mean, he just kind of like goes around and asks questions and stuff like that. And like, let's talk about his style for a little bit.
Yeah, that's
What sets him apart?
That's a crowd work just style. There's a lot of comedians who are doing that, even releasing full specials like that. He actually released one on Netflix, a full crowd work special. A Big J. Okerson just did 2 of them back to back because he had 2 hours worth of material. It's very funny. It's very quick witted. The jokes don't even necessarily have to be as funny as they normally would because you're thinking on the spot and you're not building up anything like crazy tension, telling a story. You're just firing back and forth, and it's very palpable. It's a great energy. It's a good time. Not everyone can do that. That is a special skill. I think it is very talented.
You could see that sometimes he is like literally thinking, I don't know if I should say this, but then he does.
Yes.
And he gets away with it. Is it because he's so, do you know what I'm talking about? Matt Rife, right? Yeah. He's
very handsome.
Yeah. He's like, he's called a fuck boy, but yeah. So, and I'm sure that he probably fulfills his reputation,
I'm sure he has,
but not as much as you would think, right?
Yeah, he actually had some earlier start too with Nick Cannon's Wild and Out show as well. But I mean, he is a very good looking guy.
He's not my type at all.
It was a very difficult thing when I first started comedy too, especially because he was so big that a lot of times people would tell me that I would be the next Matt Rife, and I'm like, guys, I am not that good looking. You know?
Oh, I see. I think you're much better looking than he is.
See,
he's totally not my
if
type.
you want to see a comedian that I really truly
Beauty's in
look
the eyes
like,
of the beholder. That's right.
if you want to see a comedian I really truly do look like, though, look up Mateo Lane. He's a gay comic, and
This guy looks gay to me.
I even see the fact that I look like this other comic. Mateo Lane is literally my brother.
Your doppelganger?
Yes.
Oh, holy cow. Even the porn stash.
Yes.
Check it out.
Yeah, it's insane how much we actually look alike.
That's crazy.
There was a VFW show that we were doing once upon a time, and one of my comedian friends told me I looked like him, and I didn't even realize it until then. I was like, he is right. So that picture of him in the wife beater and the brown pants right there, I mimicked that whole outfit and went on stage like that one night for him. Just because I was like, I realize it. Yeah.
He must have loved
Wow,
it.
yeah.
I mean, it's just
that's-
insane how
And the
uncanny-
crowd goes wild.
No, there was no one there. It was a VFW show.
Wow.
I love it. So let's see. Taylor Tomlinson, another name that came up.
Very funny. Yes. She's released quite a few specials now. I mean, I remember I originally watched her, I think it was in 2017 or 2016 when she had her first special up. I mainly watched because I was 16 or 17 and I thought she was hot, if I'm being honest. But she is very funny and she's making big waves right now and continuing to grow. I would actually love to be able to go see a show of hers in person because she has a very unique writing style where she does almost kind of cater to the women in the audience, but in a way that's like great for men to listen to as well. And it's not like a lot of times what happens where you're like, all right, I don't understand what's going on, or I don't really care what's going on.
Or she's trying
Right.
to shove an agenda in my face.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can't
it's
stand
very-
that.
Well, that reminds me of somebody that I think she was just killing it and then again got a little bit opinionated in some circles, kind of downgraded her, I guess, and that's Nikki Glaser,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, she's
So where is she in the nowadays in the hierarchy of comedians?
I think she's still relevant. I just think she's lost a lot of her steam, and I think she'll have to
That's a
come
good
back
way to
from
put
that.
it. Yeah, kind of the same way that Shane, his position, he kind of had a little negative dip.
Yes.
You know, it's up to them to keep persevering.
Speaking of negative dips and cancellations and stuff, sometimes it can be the most powerful thing. I'm not saying any opinion about him because this opinion, if you like or dislike him, becomes a political opinion. But Tony Hinchcliffe, who runs the Kill Tony show, which is huge.
On my notes, I was checking him out.
Just had Netflix specials, so I'll save that conversation for later. But I mean, sometimes those dips can be more powerful if you know how to do it right and to make sure that you're actually on the right side. Because sometimes people try to cancel you for something that isn't fair.
Exactly. And that can skyrocket you.
Exactly.
If you position that properly. But even if it's accurate, you can still use that if you do it right.
Thinking about some Louis C.K. right here.
Louis C.K.
I mean, he is very funny, and this is where too, like, you have to kind of be empathetic to both sides too, because we know the allegations, but a lot of people don't know that it wasn't just like they would turn around and he'd be doing the activity.
Yeah.
He would ask them, which you're like, okay, and they said yes.
Right.
But at the
That
same
was
time,
the key.
he's in a position of power.
Right.
So that was an issue.
So they were able to claim.
But if you listen to someone like Jordan Jensen, who regularly opens for him on the road because he's back doing comedy, she's like, no, he's never done anything like
Not
that.
at all. And that's not how he even is. He just had this little kink, but he was respectful with it.
Yes.
And, you know.
So you're like, I can't fault him for that. But then again, you're like, but he is in a position of power here. So then you understand that other side too. And then you're also like, but what if they're trying to just use that as an angle? Which is also a fair point. So it's kind of one of those things where you're just like, hey, like, did you learn your lesson from this? Because
Can we move
at the
on?
end of the day,
and he
you
did.
learned your lesson.
I mean,
we're good.
He was like so repentant and so, I mean, you realize what a good person and a good human being this guy really is. We all have our kinks.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not necessarily all sexual, but we all have our weirdnesses.
Yeah. Don't
that
talk
we,
about
that we wouldn't necessarily want exposed.
Yeah.
You know, he handled it so well, and he didn't go, I didn't do that. You know, he went, yeah.
Yeah. He never
didn't fight
it.
back.
He
He didn't deny. He didn't. You know, he accepted. You know, he took responsibility for it. Was accountable to it. Made reparations. You know, I mean, so few people do that even who aren't famous.
Exactly.
Go through that kind of thing. So, I mean, he's just a good person who got in a bad situation.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, if you're empathetic to both sides, you can see it both ways. And I agree. I think he's still a hilarious comic. And I think one of the biggest things to realize is the more messed up things a comic says on stage, typically the nicer person they are off
Mhm.
stage, because that's where you release
Interesting.
your demons and your bad thoughts
That's it.
versus someone who's super clean on
Holds it
stage.
in, holds it in.
I mean, think of Bill Cosby.
Mhm.
Family friendly fun, right?
Great point.
Yeah, and you know what? It's almost like when you think about that, it's just like, okay, was he like this his entire life back when he was doing all the voiceovers on the Cosby Kids and Fat Albert and stuff like that? And just like, I think we'd
That's
like
his
to
wife.
think that it was something that he started doing later. I mean, just maybe not, but you'd like to think. Otherwise, he would have gotten away with all that stuff for all that time. And so, whether that happened or not, I guess
Look at
this
how
is
old some of
actually
the
a.
allegations were.
Oh, I know. I guess again,
Times
Ask
have
his
some
wife.
changed.
people, probably know better than others. Let's
Yeah.
put it like
I'm
that.
I'm
But
from Philly.
yeah.
I mean, times have changed too. So where reporting is less taboo and there's less people trying to protect that upper
Mhm.
level of Hollywood and stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
Plus, it's really funny to imagine that he was doing Fat Albert at that time and he would just pull out a small pill from his breast pocket and be like,
Exactly. But let's some of these things that we're kind of touching on. So let's look at psychological roots of humor, since Kel's a master certified life coach. So a little Freudian.
And originally, my
Freudian.
original career was psychology.
Yeah,
That was
right. So speaking of, the father of psychology, Mr. Freud, he says, and
He's
again, I didn't
disgusting.
check this out, but he quoted that humor is a mature defense mechanism, right? So that kind of leads into Pryor, Robin Williams, Hannah Gadsby, and others, of course, where they're able to take these just super negative things that happen to them in life and somehow, bring up and again, put on those masks. We want to kind of talk about that here for a little bit. So it's kind of comedy born from trauma. So let's talk about that. Kel, so like what happens from a psychology standpoint?
I think what happens is it goes one of two ways. So that pressure keeps coming down on you, keeps coming down on you, and it can either crack you or it can crack you open.
When you say pressure, you're talking about
Whatever the trauma is, or
Oh, gotcha,
whatever
yeah.
whatever happened or is
Mhm.
happening, if it's ongoing, it ends up sometimes not being necessarily a conscious choice, but people tend to make a choice as to whether they're going to take it on and let it take them down, or if they can actually see the humor in it, or how to make humor out of it so that other people don't have to go through that same pressure.
I can almost imagine, say, there are situations where your home life isn't the best. But you find out again from things that make you feel good, making people laugh, that when you're the class clown and you may be disrupting class and not getting your best grades because you're not focused, you're focused on making your classmates laugh instead of paying attention to the lesson. That you may get this self-esteem from saying, hey, I'm going to gravitate towards that. I get more love from people making me laugh than I do with every other aspect of my life. And then you center an anchor, on that. And then sometimes things happen, good things happen, of course, as far as like making it like Robin Williams. But then think of, again, all the people that may have that ambition, and somewhere along the way, whether it's drugs, influences, life taking over, they stop, I guess, going to therapy through comedy. And, kind of, again, different things happen. You talked about the Army, for example, and we all know the suicide rate with veterans and things like that. So I guess the paradigm that I'm trying to, I guess, delve into is that sometimes we may look at somebody as attention seeking, maybe acting out in certain situations, but they're just getting what they need to be able to cope with these challenges in life. And sometimes comedy is the way to do it. Do you see that, when you're hanging around people?
I mean,
Comedians, I should say.
I don't think I've met a single comic who doesn't have some kind of trauma or something with them, and they're all using it in that positive way. I mean, like I said, I started writing jokes to help with my anger. That's when I started writing, is to help with the anger. But the anger was all just residual effects of having that trauma, you know?
And not
And
having tools to deal with it.
and just
in any other way.
instead of numbing myself with drugs or alcohol, I started using comedy to laugh about it and everything like that. And I think that's an important thing to actually do as well. because when you start using comedy, it changes every situation where instead of having a high stress situation, you have a situation where you're like, I can be really attentive right now because I know I'm going to be able to make a great joke out of this. So you kind of change your mindset and you're able to deal with these situations better moving forward as well.
It's a tool.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
it's a whole new skill in how to deal with adversity.
Yeah, I mean, recently I went to China for work and I couldn't speak to anyone there. And because I'm very anxious in social situations.
Well, you could speak to them; they just wouldn't understand you.
Yes, I mean, I could speak to them, but it was very nervous situation for me
Mhm.
because I couldn't talk to anyone. I couldn't use my defense mechanisms. I didn't know how a lot of things worked there. And so
And then all the crap we're told about how they hate us, and
they were really nice.
Of course.
They're really nice people. They're great. The streets are super clean. I was very
Mhm.
surprised about a lot of these things that I learned too, but there was a lot of times where I felt uncomfortable and I was like, I just wish I could like find someone that I feel is approachable and I could make a joke so I could
So
feel
you were there
better.
like by yourself? You didn't have
I had
any
coworkers there, but
Okay.
I went out to explore the whole city of Shanghai by myself, taking the subway and
Where do you
stuff
think
like
they
that.
got the term "you've been shanghaied"? Like that is not that
I
wasn't
thought
good.
that was food poisoning. That was too much MSG. No, so exploring that city was amazing and it was awesome, but there was a lot of uncomfortable points. And then I had to sit there and feel uncomfortable for a long period of time because I couldn't make any jokes except to myself. But that would make me even look like a crazier American just sitting there like, ha ha ha. To my
do
thing.
that.
I do that too, but
Not
I
necessarily in foreign countries.
didn't want to try it there.
That's hilarious.
So this gentleman,
Chapter
Neil
5, just so you know.
Neil Brennan.
Okay.
Neil Brennan. Are you familiar with him?
Slightly, not super.
sounds-
He has this series called Blocks, and he speaks a lot about depression and, of course, in humor. And let's listen to him real quick. That doesn't surprise you about Bill Burr either. I think, of course, I mean
X too,
what
he
he's
was in- he
talking
was-
about
yeah.
though,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's real stuff.
Yeah.
And so,
100%.
like in your, let's say, of course, how do you, of course, being at the age that you're at, you just got your cognitive abilities all mature and everything like that. But that I think serving in the Army probably stepped that up a little bit, I would only think, right? But from a mental health standpoint, the question is, with your stand-up style of late nights, talked about sometimes the jokes don't work, getting rejection, peer pressure is just like, hey, bro, you want to bump? Things like that. How are you managing that? What's your strategy to be able to make sure that you don't end up suffering from some of these things this gentleman's talking about?
I think it really comes down to just reminding yourself what are your goals, and as long as you have a goal and you're taking steps towards that, it helps. And also using your network when you're doing comedy. And it's really easy to drink. Most places that you do comedy is going to be a bar or at least serve alcohol. And I mean, I just was talking to a group of comedians yesterday, and we were talking about real life. I was talking about some of my trauma. They were talking about theirs. And if you find a good group of comedians, you'll be able to sit down and have an actual real conversation with them. Because although you shouldn't treat the stage like it's your therapy room, you can use comedy as therapy. And so being able to, like, when I first came home from Iraq, I was drinking at least a 12 pack of fives a night and then taking a shot of tequila to be able to get up and go to work in the morning. And then I made a deal with myself. I made a goal like, you're not going to drink if you're alone anymore. And then now I've built up such a mindset that some days I'm just like, I don't want to drink at all. Some days I'll have one or two drinks, but it's just about keeping
And
yourself
you're a
in check.
bartender, right?
I actually did bartend, but I'm not now.
Oh, okay.
No. But yeah, so it's just about setting goals and clear expectations for yourself and boundaries with yourself, which is really important, and not allowing yourself to deviate or leave those goals or boundaries. And also making sure that you have friends there to support you, or at least that can also support you in that and hold you accountable.
And avoiding the ones that will try to pull you back into it.
Exactly. And I wouldn't even say avoid, but learning to manage them, because sometimes people are unavoidable and you just need to learn how to say, hey, no, I know you're trying to pull me into that. Like, look, I like hanging out with you, dude, but we're not going to do this. Like, you can go do your own thing if you want to ruin your life. But I'm going to sit here. I'm cool right now. I had my one long drink and I'm good because I want to make sure I can drive home and
Enough
not
long
get pulled
drink.
over for a DUI, like that.
Smart. Well, you're smart. And, you know, I can imagine, especially at your age, that you can be threatening to people with your, with your boundaries and, being so secure in yourself. That often makes others very insecure who
Yeah.
aren't. So I can imagine, do you ever feel like kind of waves of, oh, dude, or, like,
The peer pressure.
yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, I've been peer pressure. I've peer pressured people myself.
we all.
But I've also, I think just as you grow up, you kind of realize like, dude, I don't care what you think. Like, you're not important.
You just
to me
got
at
there a
all.
lot earlier than the rest of us.
Yeah,
That's all.
I think it's almost funny to watch peer pressure happen and
Oh,
people
it's-
fall for it now. Because I'm just like,
You're so aware.
this is humorous because it's just like, I want to pull you in with me and I want to make you do what I'm doing. And then I just see the person who's trying to peer pressure. All that comes down to is insecurity. They're like,
Insecurity.
I don't want to do this alone, is what they're saying. And it's
Yeah.
like, then don't do it.
We're all a bunch of 5-year-olds running around in overgrown meat suits. And if we can look at each other that way and treat each other that way, we'd be a lot better off.
So with all those names that this gentleman Neil Brennan kind of rattled off, why do you think that so many comic are tragic figures off of stage, And then I guess even more probing is, what does that say about us as a society and individuals if we can kind of say reach that point to where there are comedians that would dream of having some of the successes and playing some of the stages that some of these people that do make it, fall from grace, so to speak.
Well, I mean, dopamine's a pool, right? And
Mhm.
sometimes you get so much dopamine that it overfloods and then your pool is empty. And I mean, it happens with cocaine. I mean, cocaine overfloods your dopamine and then the next day you're depressed and you feel like crap because you're completely depleted of it.
I've never done it.
I mean, you want some? No.
It's interesting because my mother was a teacher and I grew up in the Just Say No, Nancy Reagan era. And I was such a goody. She taught in my schools. So like there were eyes on me everywhere. So I never did anything.
That's incredible how
Although-
you grew up in the 80s and you never did that.
And I was in the hard rock and
Yeah.
heavy metal industry and didn't start
Yeah.
smoking weed till I was 27.
You're an anomaly.
Extreme. I am an extreme
Yeah.
anomaly. And it's funny because rock stars tried to get me to smoke for years.
Mhm.
And I was always like, oh, I'm cool. I don't have a problem with it. It's just, I'm allergic to cigarettes. I can't, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Then I found out it was a bronchodilator. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So after I started smoking and then went back around in those circles again, everybody was like, oh, thank God. And-
we're thinking you were a narc.
well, no, it wasn't so much that I was a narc, but my brain is 1,000 miles an hour all the time. So I was always,
Yeah, we need
people
this
just
girl
wanted
to
chill
slow
out.
down, man.
And I'm asking questions and I'm interviewing and I'm, just chill out, Kel. Have a no, that's cool. So yeah, that was a breakthrough at 27. I instantly knew why everybody had tried to get me to smoke for so long.
Mhm.
And I also instantly understood the song Sweet Leaf. You introduced me to my mind. My brain and body caught up for the very first time in my life at age 27.
Yeah. But I'm wondering again, what is this like when they reach a kind of a point of success? And would you say that like most of them, half of them, kind of fall off the side and they have again some significant issues that we don't find out about until at the end of their career? But I guess I'm pointing towards, it just seems like since our mental health services have been taken away in large mass,
A misdiagnosis too. There's a lot of neurodivergence out there that many of us got to middle age undiagnosed. And we're just told you're lazy, you're this, you're that, you're stupid, you're dumb, you're depressed, you're label. None of which, symptom, bits and pieces of which were accurate, but not true. And then you come to find out there's this whole other spectrum out there. You're not broken. You're just wired differently.
right.
And once you realize that and then learn how to work with it and make it work for you and realize it can be a superpower, it gets a lot easier. But some people never get to that point of realizing that, oh, it's not me.
And that's true. And I mean, there was a lot of unknown back in even the days when mental health was
Absolutely.
to us.
And the way they came to some of that information was very subversive. Skinner boxes and all of that stuff. That fell way out of favor after
Right.
it came to light. So then a whole bunch of research stopped. There was a gap.
Yeah, because even you would think, say, like if there was a lot of mental health say, customers, so to speak.
Mm.
And then the doctors that are there, they still are measured on the success of how well they treat
How many
treat
they
a
can.
treat a patient and
Mhm.
things like that. So there's kind of like this built-in pressure for them to reach a diagnosis. And to your point, they may have been getting a lot of things wrong.
Oh, there's no
in those
kind of like
days.
it about it.
Right.
They are directed how to diagnose and drug.
I worked in the acute psychiatric facility for about 6 months, and the lithium, for example, being
My aunt.
overprescribed and things like that. But talking about, again, back to the comedians and of course, being on the road, have you tasted that yet to any great extent, or are you still pretty much doing things locally here?
I'm doing some road shows, but it's just when I have some extra PTO and no trips planned, and I drive a front wheel drive car. So when the pass is clear, but I mean, yeah, no, you can see it a lot, but a lot of comedians are starting to go sober and stuff like that too. I think the big thing too is with the tides shifting, I think this is going to become less of an issue because it's now more open for people to talk about mental health.
Mhm.
I don't know if you noticed, but in his clip too, most of the names that were named were male, which is
Oh,
another
good
problem
point.
with it.
Yes.
Women tend to manage it a lot better because it's okay for
We
them to
mask
talk
better.
about it. And you guys mask better, sure. But men are only masking and never talking.
Right.
That's a great
Exactly.
point.
And then they don't talk until one day they snap or they find a way to cope with it. I mean, I have a close friend of mine. His dad is a schizophrenic. Has been a schizophrenic all of his life.
Yeah, my aunt was.
And his dad's parents, his grandparents said, we're not going to get you mental health treatment. This is made up. It's the devil. So he for all of his
They
life,
literally demonized him.
Nice.
just drank alcohol to cope and deal with it and make him seem normal until his liver started having issues. So then he tried to get sober, and then his schizophrenia started acting back up, and then started drinking again to help with that. And then was told not to because his liver is messed up.
Oh,
And so it's hard for him to even take his medication, and he's having all these issues. And that's what happens when you can't talk about these mental health issues. And that's why I said comedy's great, especially when you can find those groups of people. I was telling them yesterday, and you touched on this earlier, not having um, a set personality. I have
Yeah.
that issue where it's like people,
chameleon.
these people, they want me to be the dumb one. These
Mhm.
people want me to be the smart one.
Mhm.
These ones want me to be the leader. And we talked about this yesterday because you have to just kind of fit into however you want to. So being able to actually open up, and I talked to them completely honestly, open, and they listened to me. They didn't make fun of me, and we're all grown men. I mean, I was the second youngest in that group too. And so for them to give me that level of respect and listen and stuff, that's how these tides are going to shift is being
That's
open
exactly
and
it.
honest with it.
And that's, you nailed it right there. It's the older ones listening and respecting what comes from the younger ones. You guys are coming in hot. We were the last of the veiled ones, the ones that had our memories wiped and like super bad and had our DNA capped. And we are fighting through that to get back to our abilities. The boomers, some of them, they were the first wave of volunteers. Some of them have broken through. Most of them dropped off. Gen X, we're the breakers and the bridges. We are the ones that came in and finally broke everything down, but not all of us made it across. The millennials are our kids. They're bringing you guys in, the Z's and the alphas. You guys aren't having to go through quite as much of the trauma that we did. Gen X,
So it's certainly a different. It's certainly a
it's much
different kind
different.
of
It's
trauma.
a lot different. You guys, like, we had a lot more physical violence,
Right.
and now it's a lot more subversive. It's very psychological, mental and emotional, but it manifests a little differently. But you guys are helping us break through a lot of that because Gen X is willing. We're at least we're stubborn as hell, but we're at least willing to listen and look and go and consider. Yeah, okay, maybe we were wrong. The boomers won't do it.
Right.
They will not frickin' do it.
Like, no, he's just crazy.
No, you're wrong. Do as I say,
Yeah.
not as I do. Sit down, shut up, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. Control.
Yeah.
Control.
And that's how they were raised.
Well, exactly.
I'm right on the cusp. I was like right right at the bridge between Boomers
Yep.
and X.
You're
And
technically an X.
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's who I've hung
Yeah,
out
and you're
with. I
definitely
relate to them.
you're an absolute, genetic Gen X. I mean, there's such a distinct difference between the
Mhm.
two. And people at our age, even mine, I'm 57, you sort of went one way or the other,
Right.
depending
You
on
had to
how your parents and
pick
family
your
systems
poison.
were.
So, Mark, you're going to have to bounce here at the bottom of the hour. So let's go ahead. I want to revisit everything that's going on with you locally and let them know, first
Yeah,
of all, your show that you're promoting is on June 28th at the Blind Onion.
Yes, sir. Blind Onion on Victorian Avenue.
I was going to say the one over in Sparks. Right on. I can almost walk to that.
Yes, it's an awesome place. We do it right in the back room for the actual shows. But every single Sunday, we do have a free open mic to come to, watch, or sign up. Signups are at 6:30, 7 o'clock show. We're doing a special thing for Father's Day as well. So if you are a father, you can come there. I'll give you a free ticket for one free drink. So you can sit down and watch the show and enjoy with a drink on me. But the showcase, it's going to be awesome. I mean, our last one, which was March, it completely sold out. I sold 85 tickets.
What's the capacity there?
85, because that's all the chairs I could fit
Yeah.
in that room.
Really?
Yeah, technically the room capacity is, I believe, 110, but I only had 85 chairs to put in there.
You didn't have the fire marshal have to come out and.
No, hopefully it doesn't happen again too, because the layout was a little tight, so they might give us a little problem with it. But I mean, it's 110 capacity room is what it's rated for. But with the tables we had in there last time, which I'm going to try to get them out of there this time.
And what about social media? How can people find you?
Follow the Instagram at neon.glow.entertainment on Instagram. It has all of the weekly shows along with any showcases that are coming up. In the bio, you can find the link to buy tickets right off of Eventbrite. Super easy platform to use. They're $15, but I think they're including tax now, so it comes out to like $17.10, just to be completely transparent. But yeah, it's going to be the best show that I have ever put on or been a part of. So I'm really excited for this.
Do you work with Luke Westberg?
I do.
I love
do.
him.
Actually,
He used to come on a lot.
He used to be the one who
He's a good
ran
friend.
that place
Yeah,
in that
exactly.
room.
Exactly. Dead Panda.
They handed it off to me.
Okay.
They liked me for whatever reason. So
Because you're good.
and so they handed it off to me, and I've taken over, and I'm trying to do my best. And yeah, I'm very
Oh, that's good to
thankful to
know.
them as well. Luke Westberg, and you probably know a lot of the other comedians.
That
from
I know
there,
that
too.
whole realm.
They put me on their shows. They're really great people. So make sure
Elgin,
you
Paul, before
follow
they
them.
pass.
Who else can you say? Anybody else local here in the biggest little city that you want to promote?
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to give a huge shout out to the people who let me do appearances on their shows as well, including Daddy and the Dad, which you can find them on Instagram. Any of these guys that I mentioned, Daddy and the Dad on Instagram, Dead Panda Comedy on Instagram. You can find Molman Comedy, who does the shows at Coffee and Comics on Instagram. Very fun, very funny room. It's great. He also puts on his own shows.
Yeah,
he's always put me up.
He's really funny.
So funny.
So funny.
And then along with just all of the comedians, I'm not going to get into a huge list, but Luke Westberg has always helped me out, given me spots, gave me my first time opening up on an actual showcase. Those guys are really awesome. I want to give a huge shout out to like Steven Dente, who's been one of the best here in Reno, along with everyone who's on my lineup is great. I mean, it was Luke Westberg was supposed to be on this show. He's a little bit busy actually that day now, but there's still going to be, like I said, Callan. There's going to be Austin Baca, who he doesn't have an Instagram, but he is so funny. He's our feature.
He's so deadpan.
Yes,
he reminds me of a modern day Stephen Wright.
Yes, he's so funny. He's going to be our feature. Blake Hoffman is our host. Very funny guy. He's actually bringing his nephew with him, who he's his guardian, and they're going to be. Oliver Hoffman is going to be doing an opening set along with me. I'm going to be doing about 10 minutes. The last show I actually didn't put myself on because I was just worried about it being the best show possible, and I was already too stressed out. But this one I'm putting myself on. So,
Awesome.
But I want to give a huge shout out just to the Reno comedy scene and the people in Reno entertainment. I mean, everyone here is so supportive, and all the local businesses. So thank you guys again so much for letting me promote on your guys' platform. It's a huge deal for me and all the guys who are going to be at this show. So just
We'll have you guys
everyone
on
in Reno.
again too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'll get in touch with Luke and tell him I'm back on the air again. So
Awesome. Yeah. I'm sure he'll be excited to hear that.
Yeah. Oh God, I'm so glad. I'm so glad you did this, Grady, because
Yeah.
it's bringing back all these great memories and all these great people that we all kind of fell away with once everything kind of died down. I mean, there's Vicky and there's
Vicky Gordon.
Vicky Gordon.
Yep.
I love her. Josie Spadoni.
I don't know that one.
She's funny too. She's a black lady, an older black lady, and she's hilarious. So yeah, I mean, Pat had 3rd Street. We had 3rd Street Bar.
Yes, and then it turned into the library.
And then it went to the library, and
they don't do comedy there anymore. But I've done some shows.
That was great.
Shims now.
Shims is a place that there is comedy. Shanty Dolan's, Underworld Distillery, Coffee and Comics on Moana. The Prost actually right over here does
that's right.
showcases too, and that's done by Molman. He just had me on a show there a month and a half ago. Blind Onion, like I said, Miches Vatos does shows as well. There's a lot of places around town, and
that's good to know.
Anytime you guys want to come out to anything, just hit me up.
I love
if you want to come out, I'll give you a free ticket to the show, both of you guys. So
I would really like to.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll put you down on the list.
That would be great.
I always feel bad about free tickets.
I mean, if you want to pay, I'm not going to say no. You don't have to. You guys are letting
these struggling local artists.
But I mean, it's a quid pro quo. I mean, we bring him on to promote. We get to go.
Well, if I get free tickets,
and then we can talk about it afterwards.
Maybe I'll buy a T-shirt.
There you go.
I do have
or
t-shirts.
an 8-track. You got 8-track tapes?
I do not.
See, a boomer. I threw in a boomer thing there.
I have VHS, a little bit more modern.
That'll work.
No, but I do have T-shirts for sale as well. If you guys come by, you guys can pick those up as well.
All right, awesome. So that's June 28th at the Blind Onion in Sparks on Victorian Square, everybody. So let's go ahead. Mark Villareal is our guest today. And so we're just going to go ahead and insert a quick break here as he exits the studio. This is the G-Man and Kel on What's the Matter podcast show. You guys don't go anywhere.
Sir, thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you. He was awesome.
Not bad, huh?
That was. It really makes me miss. It reminds me of it doesn't make me miss it. It's like cool. We can do this again.
Yep, exactly. All right, we are back. Had to show Mark the door. Yeah, I like him. He didn't make us laugh very much. No, I'm just kidding. He did. It wasn't about that.
It wasn't about that. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he could have if we did.
No, one of the things that you always want to remember is when you meet a comedian, you're just like, oh, you're a comedian, huh? Tell me something funny. Make me laugh.
Right.
Oh, they just that's a joke amongst themselves. It's just like, oh, just don't do that. But anyway, how well you know a person, I guess, in that situation is probably pretty important. But give a shout out to my boy Sammy Solorio, who turned us on to Mark. And so we'll be doing stuff like this. Hey, you know what? I forgot. I am so sorry to everybody, but that segment that we just did, we're dedicating these segments, art and culture, to our friend who passed, Oliver X.
X marks the
spot. So we're going to be designating those as X marks the spot. And that means that this is the spot that you should be going to on June 28th, Blind Onion. Let's go check out some comedy, help some local artists, and just have a good time. So it looks like we are going to kind of wind things down here this last half hour or so. So what I wanted to kind of hit on is the state of, I guess, satire, right? It's really it's really difficult for people, I guess, to recognize that satire anymore these days. Everybody takes things so personal. And if you're insulting the person I voted for, oh my God, or if you insulted the person that I voted for and they didn't win or whatever it is, it's just, God, people are just funny these days, where people that they've never met, people that would probably not even want to spend the time meeting them in the first place unless they're after something.
Right.
They might want to meet you when it's election season or something like that. And it's just not politicians alone. I'm saying that, but primarily, I guess we can say, right? I guess that's probably the most polarizing thing, even more than religion nowadays. Remember?
Oh gosh,
there used to be just like,
oh sure,
there'd be these snide remarks, just like, oh, they're Mormon or they're
right,
They don't believe the same way, so we just don't,
People
way more
recognize
worse
religion
with
as a cult.
now. Well, I don't know. It's like there's a lot of aspects. You could argue that, again, people treat politics like a cult,
Oh, and no question.
or
No
exhibit
question.
at least cult-like behavior.
Yeah. But it's not quite as when you say no with a political belief, people tend to accept it. I mean, they might argue with you that their point is better or their guy is better or whatever, but they'll go, okay, yeah, that's a losing battle. With religion, because there's morality involved, people think they can do the holier than thou thing. If I restrict myself and act good or this way or that way, you have to too. Like there's a different, it's all about judgment, but
which you're not supposed to do.
Yeah. It's more of a moral superiority rather than just, this is how, I think this, because like with politics, it's usually you believe one way or the other because of how your social group will get or not get something.
Well, and they do a good job.
Something.
They do a good job constructing the pie with conflicting viewpoints. So there's no perfect viewpoint. It's always there's something wrong and there's something right with both sides, and that's the genius in what they do. Because
that's exactly how they do it.
Because it's like the structure. It's like if you have 100% of the population, which represents 100% of the pie, and then you say you have to pick a side. It's either blue or red. Everything else is a wasted vote. Then you've completed the first rule in the art of war, and that's divide and conquer.
Yep.
And so just by the mere structure, you have everybody fighting with each other, which again is their goal. So, but
why is it the goal? They want us fighting with each other, so we don't stop for 5 minutes and go, "What the F is going on?" and revolt against them.
It's how they control the livestock on the tax farm. That's why I always say, they are very, very good at what they do. But and that's why we need a little bit of relief, and a lot of times we get relief through comedy. And the thing that we mentioned SNL and kind of the degradation that I think that program has had over the years. I mean, we used to make sure that on Saturday night, because it actually made sense because there was football a lot of times the next day or something, on Sunday, you had to go to church after doing what your parents didn't want you to do the night before. But the point is, like, we made sure that we were watching Saturday Night Live, right? I had to have my high school girlfriend home, I think, before midnight. And so we'd get there at 11:30. Dad was passed out on the couch, and we would watch Saturday Night Live. And then it carried over into college. And now I don't even care. I wouldn't watch that. It's like the satire. I guess the satire, they still do satire, but it's kind of like one way.
It's very agenda oriented. Very much.
Kind of everybody knows that New York's a blue state, but it's kind of like that. That's what I loved about Carson is he had like everybody over there. And he had people asked him one time of why he never talked about politics. And he's just like, that's not why people tune in. That's not what they're after.
And this was before the cabal had gotten a hold of the media in such a concentrated way to where they were actually using it to drive the agenda, where they full on kicked into the New World Order and, Agenda 25 and, all Plan 30 and all that stuff with, where it became, if you're looking, it's obvious, back then things were still more organic and more, consumer driven rather than the other way around.
Well, I have to tell you, I am having a good time with the way that things are evolving because there's late night TV fatigue. So you got your old guards, Jimmy Kimmel, Fallon, Colbert, and people, their ratings are just tanking.
Sure.
People
are sick of it.
That's what I want you to hear. Everybody's listening to this, what's called a long form, which you're actually kind of getting into, I guess, a little bit, unscripted humor podcast. So everybody's heard of Theo Vaughn, but Mark mentioned Kill Tony. So I don't know if I'm going to have to do a little bit more research, and I don't know if this is like the format that he has, but basically they have table set up and it looks like they just invite on random strangers and they talk about them. So see, that's good stuff. So you guys can't see this, but we've got Tony Hinchcliffe at a table with Theo Vaughn, and it looks again like this guy they took him out from the crowd, and he does resemble exactly like Theo said. So little one-liners, that are coming up, but, things like that as far as like, say calling somebody out on their ethnicity. Theo Vaughn I don't know what he is. He looks kind of white.
Yeah.
Yeah. And both actually, yeah, two white guys, but that's funny. That's funny. That little phrase that he just came up with right at the end. How could you not? And so I'm loving that stuff. But back to satire versus misinformation, right? And so what a subjective statement that is. Subjective misinformation statement. The fact is, I think there was a study that was done, and it was provable that 68% of the time a professional politician is not telling the truth, or they're lying by omission. 68% of the time. So it's almost like if their lips are moving, they're not telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Satire versus information, because you can have, say, somebody that says something, say sarcastically, that's not true, and that's not satire. Satire, right, is something that's true, that everybody knows is true, and you make fun of it, right? So comment on, I guess, that distinction between satire and misinformation that we sometimes are getting out here.
Now, there's satire, and then now there's this new weird thing out there on YouTube where they're like creating like fictional stories out of factual situations. Like for this Diddy thing, people are posting these like faceless AI generated content that is like describing like, Jim Carrey came in and testified in the Diddy trial and said this, and this.
Yeah.
And it's compelling.
It's just a voiceover.
Right.
Yeah,
and it shows like,
yeah,
it shows like graphics and stuff that they've created.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you think that like it's real. You think it's like a news report.
Mm-hmm.
And if they never actually say in the content that it's fictional, you have to look down in the description, the written description.
Right.
Because I actually got sucked into one of those, thinking it was real.
Yeah, I did too. I like read all the way down. See, now that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so it's almost a cue now where if it is like a voiceover where there's like a perceived reporter that's saying Carolyn Levitt was served by Stephen Colbert, and when she's never been on his show.
Right.
Or anything like that, but there you make this entire commentary and fabricated story.
And I mean, those are we have to be so careful now with deep fakes.
Mm-hmm.
Like those aren't even deep fakes; those are just fake. But AI graphics and video and voiceover, like you know this with 11 Labs, you can take a clip of someone's voice, someone famous, and then create with their image videos
or
that sound like them
it.
speaking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a bunch of Mel Robbins ones out there. There's Jordan B. Peterson. There's, like all of this. And you're like, whoa,
Well, I guess it's like if it's something that you just have to be more discerning with things, especially that you're going to share. Because if you're just doing things mind candy, sometimes you're scrolling just like, that's probably AI,
interesting.
and you keep going.
Yeah.
But if you're going to share
it like it's real,
you should at least say, I don't know if this is real. I'm not certain, but it's sure.
Or I'm sure it's not. You can tell with a lot of them, you can tell the voice sounds like whoever the star is or the celebrity, but the way and the text that's being spoken is clearly from some, dink kid who, can't speak proper English, and you can hear the mistakes in their and that's when okay, Mel Robbins would never make that mistake. Jordan B. Peterson would never say that. And then you're like, okay, and you can tell too, you start to recognize the content providers, the names, and you're like, okay, if it's by them, it's going to be a dub. But you just discernment is so key now. Just assume at this point you're being faked.
Exactly. I got one more clip, the last one that I want you guys to hear. And it actually, I think is a great illustration of what we're talking about, trying to distinguish a satire. So one of the people that, late night, he would just still qualify for this on Comedy Central, Trevor Noah, came from South Africa, well-known, I guess, advocate for or I guess I guess of just the way that the kind of the world's kind of unfolded, as far as like the establishment of the United States. And look, just listen to this. Oh my gosh,
That was hilarious.
so funny. So speaking about comedians, now that is a professional, right? So he establishes his point of view. And if you say, well, yeah, that's back in the day where that's the way the world was. It was conquer or be conquered and stuff like that. And so not taking away from anything, that he says, he conveyed the message in an obviously humorous way that makes his point.
So well.
So well.
So beautifully.
You cannot argue with that.
No.
Right?
You can't, honestly. Really, it makes you just kind of marvel at the fact that, anybody can put their foot in the, stake in the ground and say, this is the way it is about anything. We are all living in 8.2 billion different universes. Let that sink in.
Say that again.
We are all individually living in 8.2 billion different universes. Think about that.
I don't want to think about it.
We're all in the same construct, but we're all living it differently, and we all perceive it differently. So that's why the programming has gotten so heavy.
Long before RTD.
That's it. It's already here.
It's already here.
It's already here. They're just not releasing it yet.
Where were you the first time you saw one of the, it's not AI, it was a robot, where they're picking up the dishes?
Oh, jeez.
I think it was like 3 years ago.
Oh, you mean like the real dexterous ones now?
Yeah, they're,
I've seen that for about 15 years. Like that's been in development for a long, long time. Now, obviously not as, as functional and detailed as it is now, but like they've been working on like automating restaurant production and stuff like that. It doesn't go well. That's why it's never really come into the mainstream. It's very, very expensive and end up taking a lot more time programming the stuff and then fixing it when it breaks down than you do just dealing with a person.
That's interesting.
And people are, at least at this point, unless you're in like obviously major, like major manufacturing, mass manufacturing. But for something like a restaurant where the demand is not predictable, it hasn't worked yet. They've come up with all different kinds of, assembly lines and stuff like this and tried them in different fast foods, mostly in different countries. And it just, even self-ordering kiosks, we expected those 20 years ago, and you still can't go into McDonald's or, and not, you still have to deal with a person. They were trying to eliminate that completely. And so that's what tells you, anybody who's afraid is AI going to replace us? No. Yeah. And now, may you lose your job to somebody who knows AI? Absolutely. But will AI replace all jobs? Absolutely not.
It can't. Even I was watching the thing about the driver or the driverless trucks.
Right.
And so that's what they were saying.
We were supposed to have that technology in 5 years.
How are they going to drive in like snow, weather conditions? How are they going to put chains on?
That technology is never going to be mass available until we change our infrastructure. As long as there are pedestrians, bikes, people in cell phones, people who aren't driving autonomous cars, it's never going to work properly. It's just not. There are going to be there's too many variables, unpredictable, variables you can't account for with that kind of, operation, that until we change our entire infrastructure to be fully self-driving capable, where there are no other,
we need to get our air traffic controller straightened out first.
Exactly. We can't even get air traffic control right. So we're really going to do this on the ground? Come on now.
Exactly.
Come on.
Well, heck, girl, let's recap in today's show. What did you think?
I thought it was great. Mark was incredible.
Yeah. Any kind of comedy revelations, did you kind of hear that you didn't consider or think about that comes to mind?
I wouldn't say really revelations, just more reminiscence, like more, like reactivating my desire for it again and my excitement for it, because I like I said, I was deep in that world until COVID, and
we'll get it back.
5 years now.
So who's your earliest memory of a comedian? Who comes to mind?
When
Like
you're-
the earliest memory where they're saying that's a comedian.
It was the
seen on
Jay
TV
the
or whatever.
Jay Leno's 9th annual Young Comedians special.
Jay Leno?
Jay Leno,
That's the first comedian that
not
you
Jay himself. These comedians that he had on. Now,
Huh.
of course, I had seen, I'd grown up with variety TV, and you see, Charles Nelson Riley, Paul Lynde. I used to watch Hollywood Squares.
Yeah, see, so that's
Joan Rivers. But
yeah.
but I mean, they were like my parents' comedians. Red Skelton, and Don or Bob Hope.
Yeah.
Like.
What about Red Skelton?
Red Skelton was Rickles,
Jackie Gleason,
Gleason, Dangerfield, but I didn't really watch that. I mean, they were boomers. They were old.
Yeah.
Their humor didn't relate. I couldn't relate to it. Then Jay came out with this special on VHS video that ran on HBO, and Dangerfield did a couple on HBO too that I also saw and caught on too. Where they were showcases for unknowns at the time. And this Jay Leno thing was so funny. I actually have a copy. I went out a couple years ago and bought it again because I hadn't seen it since I was a kid. And oh God, it was so funny. And so I remember, it was 1984. So that was really my first exposure to true modern, what I consider modern stand-up comedy. And then I got into the Carlins and this was Bill Cosby himself was out about the same time, that the seminal routine that everybody knows, so stuff like that.
Yeah, that was on like HBO, Bill Cosby himself.
HBO. Yeah. And until we had that kind of media, comedy was on albums. And I didn't like that.
Oh, I know. Who the earliest, and I didn't care because it was my dad's, 8-track tapes and stuff like that. But Red Fox was the first one, except for Red Skelton. Red Skelton, he's like the clean, comedian. But Red Fox was the off track. They hide it. They hid, so we couldn't get him. So me and my brother, of course, would, get in there. But yeah, Red Fox. I still remember a couple, classic ones from him. Just like this guy goes into a bar and he's really, really drunk. He says, "Bartender, I need a drink." The bartender's like, "Sir, I can't serve you. You're drunk." He's like, "I'm not drunk." "Sir, you're obviously drunk." Just like, if I'm so drunk, how can I see that one-eyed cat coming here into the bar? The bartender says, "Sir, that cat's leaving." Right. I remember was where do cousins come from? Ant holes.
Oh my God. See, now I think this is a big problem with comedy today is like stuff goes over our heads. Like you really, because we've gotten away from so much from like making fun of stuff and puns and, that people's minds don't work the same way they used to back.
That's right.
Because everything is so straightforward and literal now, and you can't offend anybody, and you have to, this and that and the other, and all these, rules that have kept people, it's limited our mind.
That's right.
Because I love puns and plays on words and things like that, and that took me a minute.
Yeah, I know. Wait till I get comfortable with this equipment here as we keep going through the show. This is number 6, Kel.
In the can.
So in the can. So this is G-Man for Kel. What's the Matter podcast. We will see you guys next time.
Mark Villareal.
We don't need